when it comes to living with somebody, a significant other could turn into a roommate fast or even slow over time. You married somebody, you retired them, you started a business as a man. So you pretty much made her a housewife, stay at home. She might build herself up, build something, or she might not. But when the water runs dry and things go south, a lot of times the man doesn't have a backup plan, right? The woman always has a backup plan. Women never move in with a man without a backup plan. So in that case, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, right? So we'll move into the story. Shout out to All Asian Dilemmas. They make great content. So I'm gonna just do a quick review on how this husband pretty much evicted his own wife. He even went to cutting off the water and the power. But court ordered him to pay 1.76 million won. Yeah, this was in China. And he demanded 1.5 million instead. Let's hop into the story.
They had been married for 14 years. The husband lived alone in Dongguan, where he had opened an auto detailing shop. The business grew quickly, and the family became increasingly wealthy. To allow her husband to work without worries, Fan Yulan never complained. She handled everything at home and accepted being a full-time housewife.
Which a lot of times, even if a woman does, and this isn't here in America, so even if a woman does come across a guy that has his own business that brings in a lot of money, a lot of times she's not gonna submit to being a housewife. That's just how it is now. She wants to go out and make her own money. That's fine. But when it comes to 50-50, who's gonna take care of the household? You guys are both out making all this money. You guys are barely home. You guys barely have time for each other. You're more committed to your careers than you are your household, let alone your relationship. So that leads to disaster right there.
By then, their son and daughter were already growing up. But suddenly, her husband, Huang Huang, filed for divorce in court. So, what was really happening? She said, "Well, this is the message my ex-husband sent me. Today I brought my mother and my son back to Dongguan, and he said that the water supply to the house would be cut off within 24 hours and the electricity would be cut off within 5 days. He told me to take care of myself." Speaking about her husband, Huang Huang, Fan Yuhua said her heart was heavy with bitterness. According to her, Huang Huang tried to force her out of the house she had lived in for 14 years by cutting the water and electricity within 24 hours.
2016年5月份，然后法院已经判我们离婚了，所以说他不给我们住在这个房子，要驱赶我们走。
谁不给你住在这里？
我前婆婆。
The court ruled that Huang Huang should pay her a marital compensation of 1.76 million yuan. But even after the divorce ruling took effect, Huang Huang did not follow what the court had decided. The 1.76 million yuan in compensation was never paid. Because of that, after 14 years as a housewife, Fan Yulan had no income of her own, and not even enough money to cover basic living expenses.
Yeah, see, that's why in America, a lot of times the man won't file for divorce, but he filed for divorce in this case, and that's rare because most men don't file for divorce. Because I guess, you know, in other countries it's different, but here in the United States, usually the woman always gets something out of the divorce. So that's why a lot of times the man won't even push divorce because he'll end up losing more than she will, even though she contributed nothing to the table. But yeah, that's just how it goes. Women usually get more out of the divorce than a man would. If anything, the man goes broke. Even if he does have assets, it gets garnished because she wants to leave. And when women file for divorce, the court makes sure that she's not left bone dry with nothing. Like, you can't leave somebody homeless just because you want to divorce them.
So she continued living in her former mother-in-law's house. Fan Yulan claims that her ex-husband, Huang Huang, engaged in acts of infidelity during the marriage, which is why he did not dispute the court-ordered compensation of 1.76 million yuan.
Yeah, he had to fund the new relationship. Can't do everything.
However, afterward, Huang Huang began delaying the payment using various excuses. Fan Yulan also had another wish, to see her own son. She says that during the 2 years of divorce disputes, her ex-husband and his family constantly influenced the boy and even deliberately prevented her from seeing him. Fan Yulan wanted a clear answer from Huang Huang.
That's usually female behavior. Usually women do that. Women usually prevent the children from seeing the father, the other parent. But I guess that goes both ways, apparently. What a hot mess. And see, I hate to say this, but in this generation, this is almost normal. And this is why a lot of men in America crash out or just don't want nothing to do with divorce. I'm sorry, they don't want nothing to do with marriage at all. So then they don't have to go down this route. The legal issues, it's like as a man, as a single man, if you care about money, just don't get married. If you don't care about money, get married because you're not going to care if you lose it or not. It's just money, right? You don't care.
So she took us to a street in Dongguan, where a large auto detailing and repair shop, her ex-husband's business, was located. In just 20 minutes of observing, many cars came in and out for maintenance and washing. The shop looked very busy. So, was Huang Huang really struggling financially, and therefore unwilling to pay the 1.76 million yuan ordered by the court? Considering Fan Yulan's situation, we sought out Huang Huang to understand more. At that moment, he told us that because there were alleged shared marital debts, he had filed another lawsuit and the court had already held a hearing, but there was still no verdict. Therefore, he said he temporarily did not want to pay the divorce compensation. When talking about his life with Fan Yulan, Huang Huang claimed that everything fell apart because Fan Yulan spent too much, didn't know how to manage the household, and didn't get along with his mother.
Wow, so that's 3 things. That's major though. But see, we bring it back to America, where a lot of people are lazy in this country, right? Most wives do not clean their houses. You'll be surprised how many houses you go into and they're not clean. They're just full of clutter. Dishes left in the sink. Like, that's the biggest pet peeve of mine, is leaving dishes in the sink. I mean, at least rinse them out and put them in the dishwasher if you're not going to rinse them then and there. But don't let them pile up for days. Just dishes just sitting in the sink, clutter. The place is dusty, cobwebs. You have Charlotte's Web in your bedroom. It's just people, like, nobody's disciplined. Like, cleanliness, like a lot of Americans lack cleanliness in their own households.
According to him, this was the real cause of the end of their 14-year marriage, not the alleged infidelity, which he denies. Fan Yulan, however, said that during their 14 years of marriage, she always acknowledged Huang Huang's effort in providing for the family. After all, they always depended on his work. But about 2 years earlier, he began acting like a different person, frequently speaking aggressively and even becoming physically violent over small disputes.
That's because he was getting stressed out. Whatever happens is his fault because he's the provider and he's a man and he has to figure it out. That's the attitude in America. I thought you was a man. Anything that goes wrong, you get sick, you're no longer a man. If you fall behind on a bill and you can't make a payment, you're not a man. It's like women love to destroy women in America. So that's why a lot of guys just said, forget being married. They don't want to deal with all the BS, right? But then again, you have people that'll get married out of desperation because they want somebody to go half on bills with. But it's like, if you're looking for somebody as a man to go 50 and 50 with you, how are you a provider? Providers don't look for women to go 50-50 with. So basically, if you're a man and you make enough money to be a provider, you could pretty much live on your own and choose not to be a provider to somebody else. It's all choice.
At that moment, Fan Yulan saw her son walking by the door. The boy saw her too, but showed no reaction at all.
Oh.
This coldness surprised everyone. He wants to see his son. Can he or not? No, he can't.
Ooh.
He can't even see his own son. I don't want to talk about this. I don't need to keep arguing. If you have something to say it like this. Ask him whether he can see his son or not. All right. Huang Huang's father was extremely firm. He said that since they were already divorced, each should live their own life.
That's a nice apartment tower, by the way. See, this is how most millennials want to live. You know, if you're born between the years of 1981 to 1996, you're considered a millennial, right? So which means you're pretty much in your late 20s to late 30s. Meaning you're almost 30 through the ages to almost 40, which is still pretty much young, right? So usually men's lives usually start at around 40 and up. So most men start to make more money as they get older. So a lot of them that, pretty much choose to live on their own and they can support themselves, a lot of them just want to enjoy life and just live in a nice tower apartment with the gamer setup, the nice secret labs, racing chair, and the ergonomic table, and just have a double screen computer. Life is good. All his creation and his creativity is right there. And then throw in a nice sports car and some 5 vacations a year, and that's that.
At this point, there was no need for further discussion. Everything would be decided by the court. Given that, Fan Yulan could only step back for the moment. Since the former mother-in-law did not allow her to live there, Fan Yulan went to the property that once belonged to the couple. The 1.76 million yuan compensation that her ex-husband refused to pay came precisely from half of this house's value. She insists that Huang Huang is fully capable of paying it. Fan Yulan knocked on the door many times, but no one answered. So what was her real purpose for returning? She decided to check the balcony. There were no clothes or signs of daily life. She looked discouraged. She knocked on the neighbor's door, hoping to learn something. The neighbors said that a woman was indeed living in that newly purchased apartment, and with a child. This matched what Fan Yulan had heard from friends. In theory, since they were already divorced, Fan Yulan had no right to interfere in Huang Huang's personal life. But she said she couldn't stand his falseness. In her view, claiming that she couldn't manage the house or that her relationship with her mother-in-law was bad were just excuses. The real reason for the divorce, she said, Huang Huang knows very well. As for the end of the marriage, Fan Yulan said she does not feel regret. But she cannot accept how calculating her ex-husband has become, deliberately delaying the compensation. She believes that, throughout 14 years, even if she had no achievements, she certainly had made sacrifices.
就是昨天为止就给他那个断水断电就没办法，就在这里，已经没有电了，没有电了。
But you know what though? Usually in marriages, when people do that to their spouse, when the man does that to their spouse, a lot of times the woman has family she could go to in case something like this happens. So a lot of times it's not that they want to leave him out homeless in the cold and everything. The man knows that the spouse has somebody to go to if things don't work out or if he wants to cut things off. Think about trying to get a bad roommate out. That's what this pretty much turned into. He got a divorce, now he's trying to get her out. Like a roommate that didn't pay their half of the rent.
是怎么断的？他是通知物业把它断了吗？
不是，他去供电局跟供水局。
When she returned to her home in Nanshan, Shenzhen, looking at that room that was both familiar and strangely distant, Fan Yulan felt her heart tighten with confusion. The former owner of that home had now reached the point of being expelled, a situation that would make anyone sigh with sadness. At that moment, Fan Yulan told us about the new appeal filed by Huang Huang. Not long ago, he had submitted to the court a debt receipt of 3 million yuan.
Ooh.
With this document, he requested a new division of the couple's assets. I'm not trying to cling to their house, Fan Yulan said. I just want him to pay what he owes me so I can leave as soon as possible. He mortgaged the property and then immediately filed for divorce. That house belonged to both of us, right? Yes. So he mortgaged it and now wants me to share the debt with him, is that it? Exactly. Our lawyer said there are signs that he and the other party may have worked together to fabricate this debt. Yes, that's exactly how it is.
So, okay, if she's been a housewife for 14 years and she didn't build nothing on her own, how do you expect her to pay this money? See, this is where, being a housewife pretty much goes wrong. If the woman's not doing anything on the side, like building a business or anything while she's at home, taking care of the home, there's other things you could do besides pretty much take care of the home, vacuum, clean up, and wash dishes and cook, right? You should still be building yourself even though you're a housewife in case he might file for divorce, which is rare in the West because usually the man ends up losing half, if not everything, if he files for divorce. So it's not even worth it for a man to get divorced in America because usually it's going to backfire financially on him.
In all those years, it was the first time Fan Yulan had ever heard that her husband supposedly had such a large debt. Given the seriousness of the situation, she decided to seek legal help. Together with the lawyer, Fan Yulan reviewed the details of the case. The documents Huang Huang submitted claimed that the property worth more than 3 million yuan, jointly owned by the couple, had been paid for entirely by his parents and relatives. But Fan Yulan simply could not believe that. She knew her in-laws were just ordinary farmers with no significant income. It was impossible for them to have provided such a large sum to buy the house. If we lose this case, the lawyer explained, this external debt of 3 million will have to be divided. Ms. Fan would need to take responsibility for half, roughly 1.5 million yuan. With interest and legal fees, this could go even higher.
I'm sorry, you guys. This is the type of stuff that makes me not ever want to get married. It's suicide. Why would you sign up for this shit? And it's like, as a man, if you're looking for unconditional love is for pets and children. Women do not love the men that they're married to like that. They were looking for service providers. They're looking for a break to not have such a burden of bills and responsibility on their own. Because most women don't work as hard as men. So they rely on men to pretty much give some sort of support and lifestyle and income. So men have always paid for women. That's just how it is.
And regarding the divorce compensation, the 1.76 million yuan, how did Huang Huang respond? He seemed extremely confident. He refused to comment on the authenticity of the supposed debt receipts. He simply said, everything depends on the court's investigation. After the court decides, I will pay the compensation. Huang Huang then began sharing his version of the story. Why did I marry her? When we were together, I told her I wouldn't accept her walking with another man. She said then we could break up. So we did. 3 months later, she told me she was pregnant with my child. I asked if it was really mine. She said yes. So I agreed to marry her. But she didn't want to marry right away.
I mean, he didn't have to do that. He was trying to do the right thing, but still, it backfired on him. Now what?
She dragged it out for 10 months before finally registering the marriage. I thought, if the child is mine, I'll take care of everyone. But look what happened. When we registered the marriage, there was only 1 week left before the baby was born. That's how I am. As a man, I admit all of this. In Huang Huang's view, their marriage was an accident. After they broke up...
No, the pregnancy was an accident. Because you wouldn't have never married her if she wasn't pregnant.
Fan Yulan had chosen someone else, but 3 months later she claimed she was pregnant with his child, and that's when they got back together. But since the marriage was not built on deep love, he believed it carried a hidden problem from the start. With the reporter's mediation, and considering Fan Yulan's difficult situation, Huang Huang agreed that until the final ruling of the new case, Fan Yulan and the daughter could continue living in the apartment in Nanshan, Shenzhen. I just want him to pay what he owes, Fan Yulan said. After that, I'll work, raise my daughter, and move on with my life. And so, a 14-year marriage comes to an end, leaving sadness and regret behind. In this relationship, the division of responsibilities led them to live apart for long periods. The conflicts between Fan Yulan and her mother-in-law were never resolved, and Huang Huang did not mediate those issues in time. All of this contributed to the outcome they face today. We hope that both of them can bring this story to a peaceful close, respect the court's decisions, and give themselves, and especially their daughter, a better space to start again. After all, whether in prosperity or hardship, in wealth or in poverty, what is tested is not only love, but also family bonds.
What a headache. It's like, what's the point? So basically, he quote unquote settled because he thought it was the right thing to do. So basically, he knew it was a shit show from the start, but he proceeded with that anyway because he thought it was the right thing to do. We don't know if he was trying to avoid child support or what, but now it doesn't matter. It's even worse because now he married her and turned around and divorced her. Now he has the court involved in their relationship and child custody. So good luck with that, sir. That's crazy. Even though this was from May 2016, it is what it is. Hopefully they're both doing better and they have their life on track because it's pretty much going on 10 years now. This is Kai Veo. I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.